But as the White House holds the line overseas, concerns are growing about China's influence here at home. The chairman of the House Select Committee on China, John Moolenaar, is sounding the alarm, urging local leaders to cut ties with the Chinese Communist Party front groups that are using cultural and educational exchanges to target American students with Chinese propaganda. Congressman John Moolenaar, the chairman of the committee, joins me right now. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for being here this weekend.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
So tell us what you believe to be are the biggest threats when it comes to communist China and the impact on America.
Well, I think the biggest threat is that we underappreciate the efforts that they're taking to infiltrate our society through cultural exchanges, university partnerships, business partnerships, and we underestimate their capabilities. And it's important that we spotlight that many of these activities are used to benefit the Chinese Communist Party and their growing influence around the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's surveillance. There was a, surveillance balloon, for God's sakes, traveling across the country, hovering above our military installations and sending information back. There's, of course, hacking on the part of the CCP. But I want to get your take on this. The former chairman of the China Select Committee, your predecessor, Mike Gallagher, warning in a recent op-ed that America's top universities need to stop educating Chinese exchange students just to send them back to Beijing with a head full of U.S. technology and scientific knowledge. Your reaction to what's going on at the university level?
Well, the universities don't have a good way to vet their students, many of whom come on scholarships affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. And because of their national security laws, these Chinese nationals, wherever they are in the world, are accountable to the CCP and are required to report in, give information. And so there's technology theft, there's surveillance, there's all sorts of intimidation for people, Chinese nationals, who speak out against the government. And so it is an area where our universities are partnering in some respects with the Chinese Communist Party's goals. And some of these research dollars, whether it's Department of Defense, Department of Energy, have gone to sponsor joint projects that benefit the Chinese military and their Chinese CCP surveillance society. So, Mike Gallagher's right on track that we need to be wary of this, and we need to partner with our universities to prevent these kinds of activities.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that they understand the threats, but we don't see the evidence of it. And are those students required to go back and report? I mean, what kind of reporting are they doing and how often to the CCP? Because we don't hear
Absolutely.
a lot about that.
No, and absolutely. They basically report back into their, quote, handler, if you will, where they talk about what research they're doing, and they are required to divulge information because if they don't, they are in violation of their national security laws. And here's the thing. We have to figure out a way to differentiate and make sure we put national security at the forefront when it comes to these educational efforts.
Yeah, and you have your own op-ed in the Wall Street Journal criticizing President Trump's trade deal, allowing U.S. companies to sell advanced semiconductor and AI chips and systems to China while paying our government a percentage of those sales. The president now also wants the U.S. government to own a piece of Intel, mulling a 10% stake. What is your thoughts on all of this? And tell me what troubles you most about the government getting a piece of that revenue, sales to China on those chips.
Well, I think it creates the wrong incentives because what it does is basically creates an incentives for government agencies to try and relax export controls in the name of bringing in revenue to the federal government. And I believe that export controls are there to prevent the military-industrial complex of China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, adversarial nations from growing in their technical capabilities. And ultimately, those technical capabilities could be used against our men and women in the armed forces.
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue is that we don't have the supply chains here, right? I mean, Trump has been trying to get corporate America to get it, to understand that not having your own supplies and your supply chain in America is a national security threat.
You're absolutely right. We've become very dependent, whether it's critical minerals or critical technologies. When you look at some of these technologies, hypersonic missiles, look at critical minerals, all these areas where we've become dependent on China, and they're willing to leverage those at any point that they believe is in their interests and counter to our interests.
Yeah, and then there's Wall Street. I mean, your committee issued subpoenas last month to the CEOs of J.P. Morgan and Bank of America, demanding that they produce documents related to their roles in taking public that Chinese battery company's IPO, Cattle. That demand has come and gone. The deadline has come and gone. They had huge demand, and the stock went public in Hong Kong. So what can you tell us about this?
Well, first, let me just say we don't take this lightly at all. Cattle is known to be and designated by the Department of Defense as a Chinese military company, which is actually helping the Chinese military advance their submarine capabilities and others because of their dual-use technologies. And so we want to know what due diligence has been done. And unfortunately, by supporting this IPO and raising funds for Cattle in the Hong Kong exchange, they are actually empowering China. And we need to recognize that we should not be using American investor dollars to fund Chinese military and surveillance state.
Imagine if and when that company turns its guns on America, America just funded the enemy. We underwrote the enemy, as I did in my Fox Nation special. That's classic underwriting the enemy, isn't it?
It sure is. And unfortunately, many of the investors are not even aware of this dynamic. And thank you for your work to help bring visibility to this. When you think of Bank of America, you think of a company that would be promoting American interests. Cattle, a Chinese military company, is not in the American interest.
Yeah, understood. Mr. Chairman, we thank you for your work, and thanks so much for joining us this weekend. We'll be following your work.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, Congressman John Moolenaar.